On December 16, 1986, the fifth plenum of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kazakhstan was held in Alma-Ata. There was one organizational issue on the agenda. The plenum lasted only 18 minutes. In such a short period of time, one of the most important issues was resolved: the change of the political leader. The first secretary of the Central Committee, Dinmuhamed Kunayev, was removed from the office, and Gennady Kolpin, who had previously worked as the first secretary of the Ulyanovsk Regional Party Committee, was put in his place. Thus, in the spirit of age-old traditions, the issue of governance of Kazakhstan was resolved, but this time ignoring the national interest of the republic met with open, resolute resistance. Its manifestation was the performance of Kazakh youth in Alma-Ata. On the morning of December 17, hundreds of people gathered in the square near the Central Committee of the party to protest against the blatant violation of basic civil rights. Then the number of demonstrators reached several thousand. The immediate reason for the protest of the youth was the blatant disregard for the opinion of the population and the party masses of the Republic by the center, which sent the first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kazakhstan, according to the stereotype of a little-known party worker in the Republic before perestroika, underestimation of the increased self-awareness of the people. The deep causes of youth discontent were rooted in low living standards, social injustice, and the cost of the common and administrative system. Particular indignation was caused by the apparent contradiction between the traditional common actions of the center and the proclaimed democratic principles of perestroika. Serious shortcomings in the social and cultural spheres that have accumulated for decades, as well as the aggravation of the national issue, have generated anger and indignation among the youth of the Republic.
Subsequently, under the influence of Operation Blizzard 86, the events were regarded by the country's top leadership as antisocial and nationalistic. Soon, a headquarters was set up to suppress the young people's protest, which included the top leadership of the USSR and the KazSSR, without a single representative of Kazakh nationality. Special units of the USSR Ministry of Internal Affairs, armed with saber shovels and batons, were called in for suppression. After the brutal suppression of the uprising, 103 people were convicted. 210 were expelled from the party. More than 80 people were expelled from the Komsomol. 270 students were expelled from the universities, and dozens of workers were dismissed from their jobs. In January 1987, the Communist Party Committee assessed these events as a manifestation of Kazakh nationalism, and when in May 1990 they made a belated decision that the accusation of Kazakh nationalism was wrongly and wanted to investigate the events, the work was hindered in every possible ways. The head was threatened with reprisals. Unfortunately, these results of the Commission's work were not made public, and no one received the deserved punishment.
The December events of 1986 in Kazakhstan are one of the key milestones in the history of the country and the entire post-Soviet space. These events have had profound and far-reaching consequences that go beyond simple protests and clashes. Impact on national identity, Желтоқсан became an important catalyst for the formation of the Kazakh national identity. The 1986 protests awakened in the Kazakh people a strong sense of pride in their culture and history. The perception of injustice and the failure of the Central Soviet government to take into account the interests of the national republics increased the desire for independence and self-determination. This led to the growth of national movements not only in Kazakhstan but also in other republics of the Soviet Union. The second is role in the collapse of the Soviet Union. Желтоқсан was one of the first mass protests against the policies of the central leadership of the USSR, which showed the vulnerability of the Soviet system in the face of national and social contradictions. The protests in Alma-Ata demonstrated that repressive measures are no longer capable of suppressing the will of peoples for freedom and change in their situation. These events inspired other peoples in their republics of the Soviet Union to fight for their rights and freedoms, which ultimately contributed to the collapse of the USSR in 1991. The fourth is memorialization and historical memory. Today, Желтоқсан occupies a special place in the historical memory of Kazakhstan. Monuments and memorials have been erected throughout the country and annual commemorative events are held. These events are studied in schools and universities, which helps new generations of Kazakhstanis understand and appreciate the significance of the struggle for freedom. Contribution to world history. Желтоқсан is also important in the context of world history. These events showed the whole world that even under a harsh totalitarian regime, people are capable of uniting and speaking out for their rights and freedoms. The 1986 protests in Kazakhstan were one of the first signs of the coming global changes that led to the end of the Cold War and the formation of a new world order. The December events of 1986 in Kazakhstan left an indelible mark on the history of the country and the world. They became a symbol of the struggle for national identity and democracy. Today we can see how these events influence modern Kazakhstan, which has since come a long way of development and emergence as an independent and sovereign state. The memory of Желтоқсан serves as a reminder of the importance of protecting human rights and freedoms, as well as the need to respect the national interests and dignity of each people.
Ахмет Байтұрсын ағамыз бізге былай деген: Қазағым, елім, қайқайып белің сынуға тұр таянып. Талауда малың, қамауда жаның, аш көзіңді оянып.